this story here. I'm gonna let it play, you know, and let you hear what they're saying. But what they're saying is not nice. And I got some theories. It's more than theories. I'm not gonna put all the facts up. It ain't gonna do no good anyway. You know, people believe what they want to believe. They gonna suppress it. They gonna suppress me. You know, they'll make me go away. So I'm gonna give you some bits and pieces and nuggets and things. Those who dare listen, you know. But just peep the game, man. In nature, they don't have the things that we have. I ain't never seen no Down syndrome gorilla or monkey or a tiger. Shit, even a dog for that matter. To tell you the truth, a dog with autism. I mean, they be having their issues, don't get me wrong, but the dogs, cats, that's domesticated animals. They're controlled by humans. We feed them. We give them shots and shit. So they in the loop. They in the bubble with us. That don't count. Wild animals. They don't have that shit. They don't have none of the things that human beings have. And it's not because they're not human. Because they're not around us that close. Around us that have all the poisons and shit, you know, where they doing the most experimentations and things like that. The farther out you get, and there's animals, the less likely you're gonna have any of that. But shit, it's less likely anyway. You know, what am I saying? Animals don't get that. That's man-made stuff. We putting the majority of it in us. People working in these plants and things. People used to work there, and some of this stuff have really long-term effects. You know, for generations. Effects for generations, man. The children, the grandchildren, the great, they dealing with this shit now. So I'm jibber jabbing through the whole thing. I'm gonna let that play again. Don't worry. I'm gonna let that play. But I was looking up. So what that is it's like a documentary about OSHA and different conditions, how they really first came about and how important it is, you know, to have that. But this is what they were working with is DES. I guess that was the plant. That was the name of the place they were working pretty much. Diol Still Bistro, a transpanial endocrine disrupting chemical was prescribed. Oh Lord, was prescribed to pregnant women for several decades. The number of women who took DES is hard to know precisely, but it has been estimated that over 10 million people have been exposed around the world. DES was classified in the year 2000 as a carcinogenic to humans. The deleterious effects induced by DES are very extensive, such as abnormalities of cancers of the genital tract and breast, neurodevelopmental alterations, neurodevelopmental alterations, your brain. Alterations change your brain wiring from one thing to something else. Interesting. Problems associated with socio-sexual behavior. Problems associated with socio-sexual behavior. Well, exactly. And immune, pancreatic, and cardiovascular disorders. Not only pregnant women, but also their children and grandchildren have been affected. Epigenetic alterations have been detected. Epigenetic alterations have been detected, and intergenerational effects have been observed. More cohort follow-up studies are needed to establish if DES effects are transgenerational. Even though DES is not currently in use, its effects are still present, and families previously exposed in their later generations deserve the continuity of research studies. I bet they do. Yeah, I mean, you're hearing what they're saying. It's like the Dr. Hayes. They turning the frogs. They making the frogs gay. They're changing. This is the same. It's a similarity here. So they working with these different chemicals and compounds and things, and I'm sure, I don't know, but this is enough, this and that, and it widely used, a word widely used, and it's passed down, and you have permanent damage, maybe to the whole DNA. They don't know. Maybe the whole family gene is tainted in some type of way. You understand what I'm saying? So they're creating homosexuality, not to say that it doesn't exist in some, because if I don't know, I can't think of no reason exactly, but whatever, you just want to do it, you do that. Why? Like I say, I don't know. But aside from that, your thought, just wanting to, for no reason other than that, there's these things here that will chemically change and alter you and make you. It gave the dude, I'm going to put the thing in play, it gave the dude breasts, man. It made him impotent. It changed him. It ruined his life. And I don't think he was the only one. Like they highlighted him. It's a long thing, So diolstilbestrol, DES, is an artificial hormone synthesized by Dodds and colleagues. This synthetic non-steroidal estrogen was synthesized by several different pharmaceutical laboratories around the world. DES was not patented due to public funding of the research. When that stopped them. Dodds reported that DES could act as an agent to prevent pregnancy or induce abortion in rats and rabbits, and consequently DES could be used as a contraceptive or emergency contraceptive pill. However, considering the possible adverse side effects in women, he censored the use of DES, suggesting that it might even induce cancer. And so it was first used for the treatment of estrogen deficiencies, vaginitis, menopausal symptoms, and for the suppression of. So from 1938 to 1971 to prevent miscarriages. But I thought that it was used to promote abortions. That's kind of contradictory, isn't it? Or they was playing the game with them, maybe. Even though Diamond presented studies in 1953 showing that DES did not reduce them. DES, see what I'm saying? DES was prescribed for much longer in other European and American countries. Lower income countries constitute a major concern since DES was inexpensive, a factor that contributed to the use of this drug even after its withdrawal by the Food and Drug Administration. This estrogenic endocrine disrupting chemical, EDC, was forbidden because it caused clear cell adenocarcinoma, CCA, of the vaginal and cervix in young women. DES daughters whose mothers took DES while pregnant. DES mothers was used until 1978 to suppress postpartum lactation and until, see, they just take this crap and be using it to treat all kinds of shit, and it don't work for nothing but death and destruction. And then they get to come and fix the death and destruction, which you can't fix the death, but deal with death and the destruction that it caused, all the different side effects and things. Okay, now we can go to work. That's what they do all the time, man, with all kinds of stuff. So I know. Hey, I'm doing this because I think this shit is very important. I mean, this is so much deeper than this one little thing, though. It's so much deeper. It goes. This is a rabbit hole, man. Everything is that way, ain't it? Everything is a rabbit hole to dive down, and you dive down that bitch, and you start seeing all kind of connections. Aha. And the same thing is I'm gonna say the same. There's a similarity between that Teflon shit. That's a whole nother thing. With the whatever the chemical is that they use to make the non-stick coatings that cause all different types of birth defects and whatnot. Okay. Since then, it has been replaced by tamoxifen, a drug with better results to treat breast cancer, although in some cases DES was used for the purpose for a longer time. DES was used until 1985, even though it was forbidden, when it was replaced by something else to treat advanced prostate cancer. However, DES is still used in lower and middle income countries as a treatment for castration resistant prostate cancer. Well, I guess I could see in a case like that. God damn. Whew. I don't even want to talk about that. So moving right along, the FDA banned DES because of its carcinogenicity. Carcinogenicity in September 2000. It is classified as Group 1 human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research of Cancer. Okay, a lot of more blah 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 boring. All of it's boring, right? And whoa. Okay. DES sons. Let's just dip down a little bit. I think I'm gonna cut it off after this, and I'm gonna just let the video play. However that go. DES sons present fewer genital abnormalities compared to DES daughters. The more common anomalies were hypersedation, hypolasia of the penis, and undescended testicles. Okay, that was common. Well, that sucks. Though, really? There is controversy with respect to DES exposure and infertility because some studies have found a lower sperm count and infertility and others did not. Studies performed in rats have shown that whatever. I don't know. Okay, though it seems pretty bad. So that was just two common things, but there's other shit too, and I'm hopefully I'm not one of them. I don't think I am, because they will love. I'm sure that's who they give it to most, poor people. Well, definitely once they learn better and they still want to make money, that's what that's gonna be the last line to go. All right, man, I made this very long, but I think it's important to get as much as possible on here, so it is what it is. Hopefully you stick it and watch it, cause hey, why not? It's information. You're learning. You're understanding the connections, the gears that make this machine work, and why ain't nobody gonna come and change jack shit, because it's too big to fail. It's too many of them. They got lobbyists and teams and millions and billions and politicians in their pockets. They got the sheriffs. Everybody's in on it in one way or another. Everybody that can do any damn thing about it, that is. Anybody that could change something. So you could scream from the rooftop or whatever, or do whatever you want to do, like I'm doing now. But I ain't trying to necessarily change it. I'm just trying to enlighten your mind so that you can know that they trying to fuck us, or they been, sticking it to us, and how, and why some things are the way that they are. Not all, but some, definitely. How they creating problems, creating patients, customers, clients for their mental health, their physical health, to need shit because they deformed, because one leg ain't grow right, and the eye in the middle of the head, all other kind of manner of fuckeries. you're abnormal because of your mama trusting the untrustworthy, not knowing no better, being young, too young, not knowing no better, her mama not knowing no better, being uneducated. All that shit play a factor in, being a victim, being a victim. But you can't just keep being a victim forever. You gotta, that's a part of educating. So I'ma speak. I think this is what it is. Speaking of narcissists, huh? Yeah. These the King Daddy Max of them all. The ones that be running shit. Okay, without any more delay, let me let it play.
We have been trying to get the company to give medical examinations for over 2 years. And so far, they haven't complied with any of OSHA's orders.
OSHA had ordered the company to give comprehensive medical examinations to its workers, some handling the toxic chemical DES. DES is a female hormone that can cause sexual malformation.
The people at that time were working without respirators, and if they used respirators, they were dirty, they weren't clean, they had no training program. People were very ill. Some of the guys grew breasts.
These little packets of pure DS into some liquid. And I was exposed to this, and my breast enlarged and itched, and I had a lot of trouble. And I was becoming impotent.
He got the contamination so terribly bad that he finally had to have surgery. And they had to cut him. They had to open him up breast to breast.
My life now is just, I got a divorce in 1976. My ex-wife got married again because she didn't think I was good. I don't know what the story was, but anyway, that's what happened. The big wheels of the company, they didn't care if you had to go get an operation or anything. They just figured, what the heck? It's them, not me. They're doing the right thing by being on strike. They'll probably shut the place down, but it's probably the best thing for all people ever going to work there again. The reason why I took the DS job in the first place because it was more money. And right at that time, I was in the process of getting married. And I thought it'd be better for me and my wife if we had more income coming in. I was hoping that I wouldn't be one of the ones that would get it, but I did.
Over the years, American workers have won the right to organize unions and the right to have safe and healthy workplaces. Sometimes these two rights are exercised together. In Mississippi, Gloria Jordan is trying to organize her chicken processing plant. And one of the main issues is what she knows to be harsh and dangerous working conditions.
If you're looking for a job or want a better job, then listen to this message from...
The dangerous job is cutting on the saw. These saws was placed right in front of the ice house, and they would keep the ice door open. So the people's hands would get so cold, they weren't able to know if they was cutting the chickens or cutting their hands.
Permanent job opportunities for processing plant workers.
About several men got 3 or 4 fingers cut off.
Excellent pay scale, life and hospitalization.
Girl got one of her breasts cut off.
Paid holidays and paid vacation.
You only had 3 times a week to go to the bathroom. If you couldn't do what you had to do in your clothes, then you would be suspended. You would break out in, we call it chicken rash. And it looks like chicken pox all over your body.
Around to believing that COVID-19 originated in a lab and not at a wet market in Wuhan, as China's CDC claimed in March of 2020. The former director of the CDC has come around to believing that a lab origin is more likely, as has the former head of the Lancet Medical Journal's COVID-19 Commission.
But I chaired a commission for the Lancet for 2 years on COVID. I'm pretty convinced it came out of U.S. lab biotechnology, not out of nature.
Journalists and scientists routinely dismissed the lab leak hypothesis as a crackpot theory up until the summer of 2021, when science journalist Nicholas Wade published an influential article and a viral rant by Jon Stewart.
The disease is the same name as the lab.
Pushed it into the mainstream. Up until that point, social media platforms had been removing or throttling posts that took it seriously. Anthony Fauci and NIH Director Francis Collins said it wasn't even worth considering the possibility that COVID could have originated in a lab.
He tells National Geographic everything about the stepwise evolution over time strongly indicates that this virus evolved in nature and then jumped species. Fauci added he does not believe another theory that the virus occurred naturally but was accidentally released into the public from a lab in China.
More recently, emails made public through the Freedom of Information Act have revealed that Fauci, Collins, and other prominent public officials took the possibility of a lab leak origin far more seriously than they were letting on.
Top virologists, sort of giants in this field, were looking at the genome and freaking out, basically.
Health reporter Emily Kopp works at the nonprofit U.S. Right to Know, an organization that has obtained thousands of pages of official documents and correspondence, some of which revealed an orchestrated effort by scientists to downplay the lab leak theory. They've also extensively analyzed emails obtained via a lawsuit by BuzzFeed's Jason Leopold that reveal the huge disconnect between what health officials were telling the public and what they were saying in private.
I think this is a really important question and a really central part of this entire story that maybe is not talked about enough. The fact that so many mainstream publications have completely overlooked really key pieces of evidence in this story. And my theory, and I think about this a lot, is essentially that, health editors, the people who are making decisions about what to cover and what not to cover at major news organizations, at least when it comes to the health beat, are friends with Anthony Fauci. They've known him for, decades in some cases. And it's probably very challenging to examine the possibility that research funded by Fauci's Institute might have had unintentional consequences. And so essentially, I think, to put it very starkly, we see a lot of health editors and health reporters prioritizing a tidy narrative about Anthony Fauci over, providing the truth to their readers. And I think readers deserve to understand the full scope of possibilities when it comes to the origins of the pandemic.
COP has assembled a comprehensive timeline that lays out substantial evidence that Fauci, Collins, and a number of influential scientists misled the public. Whether or not the lab leak theory is correct, it's now clear that these public officials concealed their conflicts of interest with the Wuhan Institute of Virology and minimized their own roles in providing the government funding for the unsupervised gain-of-function research that may have led to the pandemic. Among other things, COP's research has revealed that virologist Christian Anderson wrote privately to Fauci that he and 3 other scientists thought that the virus that causes COVID-19 looked unnatural and inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. Just 4 days later, after participating in a series of teleconferences with Fauci and Collins, Anderson called the lab leak theory crackpot. Other emails revealed that Fauci knew that his agency was funding gain-of-function research with SARS-like coronaviruses in Wuhan by late January of 2020, yet he publicly denied it before Congress 18 months later.
Will you today finally take some responsibility for funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator, with all due respect, I disagree with so many of the things that you've said. First of all, gain of function is a very nebulous term.
Tell us what you think about our new twist cone.
Deliciously soft. This has a crunchy cone.
Find your next possibility on Cars.com. Where to next?
COP works for the nonprofit U.S. Right to Know, which is devoting significant resources to its biohazards project, with the mission of investigating the origins of COVID-19, the risks of gain-of-function research, and mishaps at biolabs where pathogens of pandemic potential are stored and manipulated.
At a certain point, I realized that this is, I think one of the most important health stories of our lifetime, how this devastating, earth-shattering pandemic that has affected billions of us and unfortunately killed millions of people started. And I knew that U.S. Right to Know, this nonprofit, was submitting a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests and had found some pretty startling information.
The first thing we should talk about is a paper called The Proximal Origins of COVID-19, which in the introduction to your timeline, you call one of the most influential scientific articles in history. What makes you say that?
This paper has been cited in, thousands of news articles, hundreds of Wikipedia pages, and really shaped the discussion about the origins of COVID for a long time and continues to. The idea that a lab leak could have resulted in the pandemic, the idea that that is a total conspiracy theory really originates with that paper.
What argument was that paper making, and what effect did that argument have on kind of the course of coverage of the lab leak theory?
The central premise is that SARS-CoV-2 could not have been engineered. They also said this novel virus doesn't look like anything that we've seen in the scientific literature. So it's unlikely that scientists would have used novel methods and a completely unknown virus to create this new virus. There are a few problems with that, though, which is that we now know that two of the virologists who helped write the paper were deeply familiar with work going on at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and with its American partner EcoHealth Alliance, because they were directly collaborating with either the EcoHealth Alliance or the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And the other virologists who also helped write the paper were also aware of a very similar virus called RATG13, were aware of gain-of-function work going on at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and had expressed among themselves serious concerns about aspects of the genome that looked unusual and looked primed to infect human cells.
I think it would be useful to dig a little bit into some of the specific conversations that we now know were happening in those earliest days as the people at NIH, like Fauci and Collins, were trying to figure out where this might have come from. And one of the key dates here is January 27th, when Fauci learned that the NIH had funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So that's fairly early. He knew there was a connection. 2 days later, Christian Andersen found a paper describing gain-of-function research at that facility. So we, by January 29th, they know that NIH has funded research at the Wuhan facility, and that there has been gain-of-function research, enhancing the transmissibility of viruses at that facility. A bunch of virologists and Fauci and Francis Collins start frantically emailing and scheduling phone calls. So just describe what many of the virologists in this inner circle were saying about the virus at that time amongst themselves.
The striking thing is when you put these emails back to back, you see sort of this panic that was going on in late January and early February as Christian Andersen and Eddie Holmes, two sort of top virologists, sort of giants in this field, were looking at the genome and freaking out, basically. And we know from these emails that their first conclusion was essentially, I think Eddie Holmes said to Christian Anderson something like, "Holy shit, this is bad." So it's clear that they were deeply concerned. The